Amen. What's up, Missouri? How you guys feeling? Amen. You guys having fun? You guys prefer to be in school? Is that? No? Awesome. Well, hey, my name is Greg, and I flew in this morning from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And did somebody say boo? Okay, I was just making sure. I am a Milwaukee Bucks fan, so don't just let it go. Okay, it's all right. Pray for me. I'm still recovering. But hey, I'm excited to be with you guys tonight. I heard a lot of amazing things that have been happening this week already, and so it's going to be another amazing night because I get to talk about somebody you may have heard of, Elijah. Anybody ever heard of Elijah? Maybe you've talked about him. We get to learn a little bit more about him tonight. But before I do that, just so we can know each other, I figured that I'd share a story about myself so you can get to know me a little bit. I am married to my wife of 7 years. Her name is Tiffany. Now, please forgive me. I forgot to send our media team a picture. But if you follow me on social media, you will see her beautiful face there. But do not tell her that I forgot the picture. Deal? All right, cool. So I'm married to Tiffany. We have no biological children yet. We have 2 goddaughters. And our oldest goddaughter is a freshman in college. Yes, I am dating myself a little bit. Don't let the swag fool you. She's in college. Pray for me. She drives. Pray for me. I'll never forget it. She came over to our house the very first time she started driving, just because when you get a license, you feel like you just need to drive places for no reason. And so she came over to our house, and she's showing us her new little car and all that fun jazz. And then she's leaving our house, and we say goodbye and all that. And then all of a sudden, there's this dramatic knock at the door, and I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, oh my God, my car won't move. Okay? And so, like, to a girl who is 19 years old, this is the most outrageous thing that could ever happen. The world is ending. The next worst thing that could happen could be that she would lose her phone. Okay? Her car won't start. So, all right, I go out. And it's crazy because the car's on. Put it in reverse. Hit the gas. Nothing. Put it in drive. Hit the gas. Nothing. This is going on for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, you know, and as any good man does, you know, when these things happen, they got any dads in the house? You know, you feel like, well, let me just take a look under the hood and see what's wrong here. Truth be told, I have no idea what I'm doing. I lifted up the hood of the car, and I'm literally Googling how to, because I don't want to be showed up here. So this is going on for 5 minutes, and my wife is watching this whole debacle take place, okay? And like any good woman, you see your husband struggling and making attempts, and you just sit there and watch him, okay? And I'm working up a sweat, and you know how it is, men. She goes, hey, do you need any help with that? No, I got this. You know what you're doing? I'm figuring it out, but I got it. Don't worry about it, okay? And this goes on. I wish this was a joke. This goes on for about 10 minutes, okay? And then my wife goes, hey, can I try something? No, I got this, okay? So then finally, you know what? All right, go for it. You try it. Now we're family, so don't laugh, okay? What she does is she gets in the car, she sits in the car, and then she turns off the emergency brake. And problem solved. Go girls. E-brake. I knew that. This entire time, she's watching me work up a sweat And she's sitting over there, and you know what she's literally, she goes, I think I can help. And I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing. And she says these words. She says, how's that working for you? Okay. The title of my message tonight is simply that. How's that working for you? What we're going to do is we're going to talk about our dear friend Elijah. And we're going to start in 1 Kings chapter number 18. And I'm going to break this down because there's something amazing that happens. But before I do that, let me catch you up to speed with what's going on. So we have Elijah, who is the prophet of God. And there's King Ahab, who is the king of Israel at the time. There's a problem in Israel, friends. There's a famine. And this is a problem because, guess what? If we need to live, we have to eat the animals. And if the animals don't drink water, that means the animals die. And so ultimately, this means that everybody could die. So a famine is a bad situation. And so you have Elijah, and then you have this king named Ahab. And Elijah and King Ahab are kind of like me and my wife. You know, they both think they've got the right answer, but one of them is actually really right, okay? And so Ahab thinks, hey, this famine is because of Elijah, okay? Because you can't be like everybody else. You have to be Mr. Different. You can't worship these prophets of Baal and these gods that everyone else is worshiping. You have the audacity to think that there's something called the one true God, and so you're messing this up for everybody, bro. Okay, that's modern day version. Elijah's like, excuse me. I serve the one true God. You're over here thinking that there's something else outside of the one true God that could fix this problem. And so this argument ensues. And as two good men do when they're about to fight, you know what? You want to do this? You really want to do this? You want to do this? All right, let's do this. There's a showdown that happens. Everyone say, oh, snap. So here's what happens. Elijah and King Ahab, they have this little duel. King Ahab says, listen, all right, if your God is real, in a moment, we're going to build an altar. We're going to ask that your God would bring fire. And if fire shows up, that means your God is real. Elijah's like, really? Okay. And if your gods are real, we'll build an altar. And then we'll ask that they bring fire. And if fire comes, that means your God is real. They're like, deal. They shake on it. And so there's this duel that happens in Israel. And I can just imagine how this is going down because they're like you and I. Whenever there's something good about to happen, people were going live on Facebook in Israel back then. And they're like, oh, snap, it's about to go down at Mount Carmel. They're about to duel off. You know, they got hashtag Team Elijah, hashtag Team Ahab. And so here's what happens. There's these prophets, and they're saying that their God is real. So their one job is to ask their God to bring fire. So they're doing all these crazy things. They're jumping around. They're doing backflips. They're doing push-ups. Nothing is happening. And then you have Elijah over there like, you know what, bro, you might want to call him. His phone might be turned off or, you know, he may not get service. You know, you want to try and text them. Elijah's laughing at them. And so they're trying all these crazy things to say, you know what, our God is going to be the God that brings fire. And it gets to the point where these crazy nuts start cutting themselves and they start bleeding. And Elijah is watching this entire thing happen and there's no fire. And so now people are getting worried. They're like, well, you know. So then here we have our dear friend Elijah. And this is where I want to start our story tonight. So if you bear with me, we're going to break this thing down because I believe there's some Elijahs in this room. So if you have your Bibles, quickly, let's go to the book of 1 Kings 18. I'm going to share some points with you. The biggest thing I want to help you understand, students, is the three things that it takes for you to take a stand for God. The three things that it takes for you to take a stand for God. So here's what was happening. There were other people in Israel that believed what Elijah believed. Elijah was the only one that was brave enough to say, you know what? My God is the real God. There were 7,000 people that didn't agree with King Ahab. They did not worship these prophets of Baal and their gods. But you know what? They were in hiding. But Elijah is the only person in this entire nation that stood up for God. I don't know about you, but I think that deserves a hand clap. Three things we should know to take a stand for God. First thing is this, my friends. In order to take a stand for God, we need to know God personally. Everyone say that. Know God personally. In 1 Kings chapter 18, starting in verse number 30, the Bible says this. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come over here." So all the people come to him. He rebuilt the Lord's altar that had been torn down. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes named after Jacob's son. Okay, the Lord had spoken his word to Jacob, of course, saying, "Your name would be Israel." Elijah built an altar in the Lord's name with these stones. He also made a trench that could hold 12 quarts of grain around the altar. He arranged the wood and cut up the bull and put it on the wood. So Elijah's saying, you know what? We've watched these prophets try and do their thing. I'm going to start doing my thing. The first thing Elijah did was he built an altar. Friends, if you want to know what it takes to take a stand for God, you need to know what it means to build an altar. These crazy prophets, in their attempt to bring fire down from their gods, one of the things they did was they jumped on the altar and broke it. What is the altar? The altar is a construct that we would see oftentimes in the Bible, primarily in the Old Testament, primarily made of wood. But this would be the place where there would be a sacrifice, okay, a burnt offering, because this was the place that people met with God, okay? So if they wanted to connect with God, they would get the best of whatever animal they had to sacrifice, and they would lay it on the altar, and this was their opportunity to connect with God. These crazy prophets of Baal, the first thing they did was jump on the altar and break it. Oh, snap. Friends, let me help you with this. There's nothing that you can do without God. There's nothing that you can do without God. The first thing Elijah did was he said, you know what? I got to rebuild this altar. Because if we want to make something happen, we need to be in touch with who God is. There was another thing that he did. The second thing that Elijah did, the second thing that he did was he said, you know what? There needs to be an offering. He offered up a bull and he put it on the wooden altar. Why do I say that? Because, hey, this connection with God, it took a sacrifice. It took something of value. It took something that you really cared about. It took something of worth. It took something of high quality. You don't give God your leftovers. You got to give God your best. And so it took something that mattered to you to lay on the altar before God. Because what you're saying is, God, you're more important than whatever I'm laying here. Can I ask you a question? My friends, what are you willing to lay down? What are you willing to put on the altar before God? What are the things that you value? Where does your time go? Do you care more about what people think about you on social media than you do spending time with God? Do you care more about having electronics and being connected to Wi-Fi than you do spending time with God? Do you care more about hanging out with your friends than you do spending time with God? Do you care more about how you look in the mirror and the perception that society teaches us that needs to be the image in which we need to portray than you do with God? What are you willing to lay on the altar before God? It has to be something you value. Because why? You're saying, God, you matter more than that. Second thing they did, our dear friend Elisha did, was he trusted God fully. You have to know God personally, but you also have to trust God fully. In our Bible here, in 1 Kings 18, starting in verse number 34, it goes on to say, he said, fill 4 jars with water. Pour the water on the offering on the wood. Then he said, do it again. And they did it again. Then he said, do it a third time. They did it a third time. The water flowed around the altar, and even the trench was filled with water. When it was time to offer the sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward. He said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, make known today that you are the God in Israel, and that I'm your servant, and I've done all these things by your instructions. Answer me, Lord, answer me. Then these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you're winning back their hearts. So, Elijah put the sacrifice on the altar. But you have to understand something. Elisha's one person. There's like 450 prophets of Baal. There's King Ahab. There's his wife. There's all these other people in Israel watching this one man. I don't know about you, but it takes a lot of courage to be the only person standing up in a room saying, you know what, I believe in God. He starts asking God. I want to help you with something, friend. Whenever you're ready to see God do something in your life, your faith has to be over everything. Faith is the starting place. Faith is the place that we begin even having a relationship with God, because we're saying, Jesus, I believe that you died for me. And it's because of your sacrifice that I can have a relationship with God. Another thing you need to do when it comes to having faith, friends, is you need to make room for the miraculous. Now think about this story here, okay? Elisha has this dead animal on the altar, and the altar is constructed with wood. He continues to tell people to pour water on the wood. Has anybody ever made a fire in here? Anybody want to show us? I'm just joking. Yeah! No, pyros, calm down. Like, there's one in every group. Okay, I'm a city kid, so y'all got to help me here. I never did this, but they say, if you're making a fire and you've got wood, drenching the wood in water, is that a good thing or? Okay. See, you know what? I Googled it. Thank God for Google. Amen? It's a terrible thing. So think about this. Our friend Elijah is saying, listen, we're going to pour water on this wood, and then I'm going to pray to God, and he's going to bring down fire. And so Elisha pours water on wood, prays to God. You know what God does? God answers him and brings fire. Should water be a key ingredient on wood that starts a fire? Absolutely not. Why do I say that? Because I need you to understand something, friends, if you don't understand anything else. God specializes in doing the impossible. God specializes in doing the impossible. For our dear friend Elijah to step up that day in front of all these thousands of people, the entire country of Israel at this time, and say, listen, my God is the one true God. He had to believe that God could do the impossible. He made room for the miraculous. How do we make room? It's opening ourselves up to believe God can and God will. There's a third thing that we need to know when it comes to taking a stand for God. So you have to know him personally, you have to trust him fully, and then you have to execute your assignment boldly. 1 Kings 18:38 says this. So a fire from the Lord fell down and consumed the burnt offering, wood, stones, and dirt. The fire even dried up the water that was in the trench. All the people saw it and immediately bowed to the ground. The Lord God, they said, the Lord is God. Elijah told them, seize the prophets of Baal. Don't let them escape. The people seized them, and Elijah took them to the Kishon River and slaughtered them there. When Elijah took that stand for God, friends, in front of all those thousands of people, you have the king at this time. You have his wife. You have these prophets. He's the only person that's standing up for God, saying, listen, God, I believe that you're real. And because you're real, God, I believe that you're the God we should serve. Because You're the God that can move on our behalf, and you're the only God that can make things happen. He took a risk because Elijah knew that he had an assignment. And what your assignment is, my friends, is your assignment, is your opportunity to share Jesus. I want to tell you a story about a young lady I met speaking at a camp. Her name was Hope. I was speaking at a camp in Alaska, and I was freaked out because like I would wake up in the morning and there would be like moose like walking outside, and like moose is a horse on steroids. And I'm like, oh, dear Lord, Jesus. It freaked me out. But there's a little girl named Hope, and Hope came up to me. She said, hey, Pastor Greg, God told me to start a Bible club in my school. So I said, cool. Okay. About 6 months later, Hope writes me and she says, hey, Pastor Greg, I started that Bible club. I'm like, awesome. How did it happen? She said, well, the first day there was this one weird kid that came. Oh, very encouraging. She was like, yeah, and he was like really weird. Awesome. You know, I love the way you guys communicate because you're so honest. You know, you're like so creepy. Oh, okay, awesome. And then I go, so what happened? She goes, so you know what? Hey, this kid came back week after week. I would start sharing this Bible study with him. And then this one week, he brought a couple of his, in her words, creepy friends. Okay, he brings a couple of his creepy friends with him. And then they start bringing their friends. And then they start bringing their friends. And then somebody else hears about it. Okay. Now, in a public high school, this one itty-bitty girl named Hope, who was 17 years old, starts a Bible club. Starts off with one creepy dude. By the end of the year, friends, can I be honest with you? Over 100 students in a public high school were gathering every week for a Bible study started by one girl. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, snap. Why do I say that, friends? Because the last thing I'm going to leave you with, and probably the most important thing I want you to know tonight, is this: that God gives his people, his workers, power to stand up for him. God gives his workers power to stand up for him. Let's say that together. God. Y'all sound real good. One more time. Okay. Now this time I want you to say it and get real, real crazy. You ready for this? Go! All right. Give yourselves a round of applause. Our dear friend Elijah, he calls this face off with King Ahab. I thought about this practically, guys, and practically it doesn't make sense. You have one man named Elijah. You have a king, the king's wife, 450 prophets of Baal, thousands upon thousands of people in Israel. How does that happen? Because God gives his workers, people like you and I, people like my friend Hope in Alaska, the power to stand up for him. Because he's looking for some people like Elijah who will say, you know what, God, I'm not ashamed of you. Because my only concern is this, friends. My only concern is there's still people that existed in Israel that time. There's some people who don't quite believe in the false gods, but they're too scared to say anything. Then there's some people that suffer from what I like to call Hannah Montana Christianity. Okay? You know, they got one foot in, one foot out. They want the best of both worlds, this little hokey-pokey Christianity. Well, you know, I believe in Elijah's God, but I believe, and, you know, and we're just straddling the fence. Why? Because we don't want to make anybody upset. But then there also are some people Because right after Elijah called down fire, he said to the people of Israel, after they believed, he said, listen, we have to kill these prophets of Baal. Because watch this, whenever God shows up, everything that's not like God has to go away. And there's some people that say, you know what, I believe in God, but I have yet to kill the other stuff that doesn't look like God. But friends, you are those workers. And I believe God is here tonight saying, listen, I just need one middle school student who could do what I say in Romans 1:16 and not be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I need one to move a nation. Let me pray with you before you worship tonight. Dear Jesus, we thank you for your word, God. We thank you that you're still the God of consuming fire. You're still the God that when we pray, you make things happen. And so, God, my prayer tonight for all of my friends is that you would increase faith, God. Lord, we don't want to straddle the fence anymore. We don't want to be the type of person to say, God, we believe in you, but there's still things in our life that are not like you. And we don't want to be the person that's like, you know what? I don't want to tell anybody else about that. We want to be the people who are bold and courageous in what we believe. In Jesus' name, amen.